What's going on, guys? I'm Jay the Black. Shout out to everybody that's tuning in. I want to talk about Vincent Jackson, the former NFL player who has since passed due to a recent situation that occurred with him being found in a hotel room, deceased. And according to reports, people are saying that he may have been gone for like 3 days. Now, I'm not here to do a news report. I can link you to the reports, but this is about Vincent Jackson and the sad situation that has occurred. You know, I think that I'm gonna have a different take on this, okay? Because Vincent Jackson wasn't a public guy. He didn't put his business out there. He didn't know much about him. The only thing you really know is that he was a family man, right? He was married with kids. But only recently did we find out that he had moved into a hotel. And people don't know why. And he had been there for seemingly a month until being found recently. And according to the coroners, he had a problem with alcoholism. Now, this is a problem that plagues a lot of people. You don't have to be a football player to have dealt with this. This goes on a lot of different guys and a lot of different career paths. But we don't know how bad it was because, again, he has a family, he has a home, but he went and stayed at a hotel. So you have to ask yourself, what caused that, right? Was it a situation of drinking himself into what happened? We don't really know yet. But I just want to speak on it from a standpoint of Vincent Jackson and former NFL players and people saying that basically the NFL need to do more, right, for former players. They need, even though they do have programs for former NFL players, but are those proud former athletes gonna go to the NFL and ask them for help? Because you didn't really hear anything about Vincent Jackson in his life and him needing help with anything. Again, these guys are proud men. You only hear about certain things once they have passed, right? And we're probably going to know more moving forward. The one thing I don't like is how people just want to bash the NFL. It's the NFL's fault. How is it the NFL's fault? When the NFL gave them a platform and opportunity to make money and to build a brand for themselves. These guys signed contracts. Vincent Jackson played for the Chargers and he played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But you have guys like Ryan Leaf who never made it in football, right? Never made it. Despite how talented he was coming out of college, he was a bust. And he's known for that. And I think he's always carried a grudge because of that. They want to point the finger as if it's the NFL's fault. These guys have been trained to be football players since they were in Pop Warner football. A lot of these guys don't even play in the NFL that long. So how can you blame the NFL for their situation? Now, I will say this, though. If there were ways and things that the NFL could do to make the situation better for NFL players, I would say do it instead of doing all this social justice BS. Put more resources. Instead of putting resources into social justice, put those resources into programs for former players if that's what they need. But what Ryan Leaf may not understand is these guys are proud men. They're not going to go begging the NFL for anything. And you can't just throw money at every situation just because. We don't know the full extent of the situation with Vincent Jackson. But more is going to come out. I think the issue people are going to want to know is how did he end up at that hotel if he's a married man with children, has his own home? Was there a breakup? Was there some type of issue going on? We don't know yet, but we probably will soon. I just don't like how people are taking this situation with Vincent Jackson and using it to attack the NFL like Ryan Leaf. I'm not saying that Ryan Leaf is 100% wrong, but the NFL has done a lot as far as CTE. They have pushed resources into those areas. They've changed the rules in football to prevent head injuries, to prevent concussions. The NFL has done a lot. And there are people still complaining about the play on the field. Well, what do you expect? People are complaining about CTE. And I believe Vincent Jackson had his brain donated to CTE research, right? So, again, I just don't think that going at the NFL is the best course of action when you don't even know the extent of this situation 100%. And now, again, this ain't a defense video of the NFL. The NFL has a lot of faults, especially, again, with the social justice, how they have completely changed the rules around, how Roger Goodell seems to want to be a celebrity. He wants to be everybody's friend instead of running the league the proper way. We all know this, right? I think what he's doing as far as, kissing the ring of the Kaepernick stands, I think that's despicable. But in this situation, is the NFL really responsible for what happened? I think it seems to me that you got guys like Ryan Leaf that are acting as if the NFL would have just stepped in and did what? If they're not asking for help. It's different if he's asking the NFL for help and they're not giving it to him. But you have a situation where you have a guy who seemingly was extremely private, had some situation going on, to where even after he has passed, it is found out that he has a problem with alcohol. There's more to it than just pointing the finger at the NFL. A lot of these guys are not asking the NFL for anything, and money is not going to solve it. A lot of times, and I believe that former NFL player Greg Camarillo, I think he said it best when he said this in a tweet. Football players struggle when our careers are over. It's hard. We've been football players for years. It's what we do, what we know, and a big part of who we are. And then it's gone. A big part of our identity is lost. And this was part of a Twitter thread that he had. And he spoke on how basically these guys are trained from a young age to put whatever they have going on aside for the betterment of the team, to do what's best for the team, right? They're trained to basically let go of everything, focus on playing through whatever pain you're going through, whatever things you're going through personally, put all that to the side and focus on winning. Focus on outdoing your opponent. And you prepare like that every week. Even in the off season, you're preparing for the season. A lot of these guys not only spend time away from their families during the season, they spend time away from their families during the off season. A lot of these guys go out of state to train. They'll go train in Arizona. They'll go train in Miami. They'll go train in LA. And they'll do that for probably 2-3 months, almost seems like, right? Training. So they can be in top shape and they can be ready to go, because they know that the NFL does stand for not for long, right? So I just think that Vincent Jackson, a private person, had a lot going on, and maybe he, like others, had a hard time adjusting to life without football. It's hard for these guys. This is why you see a guy like Tom Brady play into his 40s, because football is all he really knows. Football is all he's ever really been good at. And as long as he can play the game, he's gonna play. It's just like when you see guys play basketball until their late 30s or even early 40s. Baseball, right? Because that's all they know. That's all they've ever been good at. Ever since they were young, that's the structure that they always needed. When you have these guys, especially these melanated males, right, coming out of these melanated communities, the only structure that they ever had in their life was sports. Whether it be football, basketball, they had a schedule. They knew that every time this time of year was football season, or this time of the year was basketball season. They had coaches who they could always keep in contact with, right? They had teammates that they were able to become friends with. They had a structure. And once you're retired and the league is done with you, you don't have that anymore. You have to go back into normal life. You have to decompress and deprogram from football. And it's hard for these guys, right? These guys constantly in the weight room, traveling, being around coaches who are basically drilling it in their minds that they have to go out there and smash into the opposing team. It's hard to deprogram for that, man. I'm not saying it's easy. Now, when they send off his brain to CTE research, maybe there will be something in regards to CTE. But once again, people, there has been no incidents in regards to Vincent Jackson. There's been no crazy, wacky, weird behavior from Vincent Jackson that we know of. No reports are coming out. This came out of the blue. This came out of the blue. And I think that I understand where Ryan Leaf may be coming from as far as the camaraderie, as far as the NFL doing much, but what the NFL, I believe, is doing as much as they possibly can for a league. And I noticed that only the NFL is held accountable for ex-players, right, who signed contracts to play on those teams. Now, there's actually been football players recently in the last couple of years who end up retiring because they don't want to get. That was one player, I think he retired because he didn't want to get any more. He didn't want to get any. I believe he didn't want to get any more concussions. Right? He chose to walk away. But there are other players who will get concussions and they will continue to play. Either they're doing it for the money, or they're doing it because football is all they have. It's the only structure they've ever known, and they really don't want to lose that.